Diving into your next act or wondering what's ahead? Enjoy life as you change your path and embrace your authentic self.
Join me as we discuss the good, the bad, and the ugly of making big changes in your life. New directions both personally and professionally. Shake things up. But don't worry, you are not alone. On each episode, we'll be sharing stories, providing valuable information, and introducing you to others navigating their next act. So let's get inspired.
This is a Candy Factory Convo, Life in the Next Act with Gail Shane.
Welcome to Life in the Next Act. Today we will be talking with Luis Ortega, Vice President and Broker of SlateHouse Realty, headquartered in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. Luis is a 17-year real estate veteran with a solid reputation as an investment consultant and trusted advisor. Luis will be discussing how to make wise financial decisions with your real estate purchases and how to achieve your investment goals. Luis will also share his personal story about living in a gated community called incarceration and how he turned his life around. Hello and welcome, Luis.
Thanks for having me, Gail.
You're so welcome. Luis, let's talk first about real estate cycles and how the market and the market today. If you had a crystal ball, how long would you say that today's crazy seller's market would last?
Well, I think a seller's market, let's first, there's so many factors that go into a question like that. And I think first we got to consider our location, our geographical location, and maybe focus first on what a seller's market means, right? A seller's market means that there's a demand for housing that exceeds the supply in a specific market. For a place like Lancaster, Lancaster County in general, I think that we have to consider where our placement is, in the country. And we're centrally kind of located between Washington, D.C., New York City, Philadelphia, in New Jersey, some more expensive metropolitan areas. And we're noticing that there's a large exodus from these areas. And I think maybe that we could probably say that COVID had a lot to do with that, we realize, that as things continue to get more expensive in these areas, people are looking for more affordable regions to move to. And also we've found out that, in business, a lot of us have found that other ways to get business done without being in person, right? With being able to work remotely. So because of that, people are looking for more affordable areas to move to. And there's we're seeing so many people move from more larger metropolitan areas to Lancaster, and it's driving prices up and it's creating a demand. So, whether something happens in the next year or two in our economy, that may affect us slightly, but I've been through the crash of 2008. So we saw that Lancaster, although we were affected, we were not, this area was not affected as severely as some other areas like California, New York City, Miami, Florida, places like that. So and that's because we're in a conservative area. So I think that whether something major happens or not in the economy, we can probably still be confident that we'll still be in a strong market here in Lancaster. And I think that the seller's market is here to stay for the next few years.
Thank you for your outlook. Let me ask you, what is the difference between bad debt and good debt?
Well, now you're taking real estate to the next level, right? Most people are thinking about buying and selling their home. I mean, usually the largest investment that someone makes in their lifetime statistically is buying their home. Outside of buying their home, those who decide to get into real estate investing really start to understand why real estate, in my opinion, is the greatest business to build wealth in. First, we got to think about assets and liabilities before we talk about good debt and bad debt, right? So we need to start to identify what's an asset, what's a liability. An asset, simply put, is debt. An asset is basically something that provides value that increases in value and provides income for you in some capacity. Okay. A liability is something that most likely loses value over time and takes money out of your pocket, doesn't put it in, right? So that's literally what we can also attach what good debt and bad debt is, right? If I take a loan out on a boat, is that necessarily good debt? No. I mean, it's a depreciating asset. It's a toy, and I love boats. I love cars. I love the toys, but we gotta start to identify, is it a liability or does it go in the asset column, right? So a rental property goes into an asset column, right? It provides income for you, if you maintain the property correct the way you should, it should also increase in value over time if you bought the property right. So that to me is the difference between good debt and bad debt. I can take out mortgages, I can take out loans for a business that's creating income for me. Those type of things I consider good debt. Bad debt are on the liability side.
So, Louis, where do you start when thinking of real estate investing? Is that mortgage pre-approval the first thing you recommend, if not a cash buyer?
Well, we're as an investor, right? I think it's more important outside of, whether you're a cash buyer or not, right? We all need a specific amount of capital, right? So I do believe in saving money, right? But saving capital until it's enough to invest into an asset, right? To invest into something where it's not as easy to just touch that money. I don't know about you, Gail, but anytime I've ever had an excess amount of cash or money just sitting in an account, somewhere, somehow, some way, something comes up, regardless of whether we realize it's happening or not, and that money slowly starts to trickle down. It slowly starts to dwindle away. And, even if you don't touch it and money's just sitting in your account, because of inflation, and the value of the dollar is going to be less a year from today than it is today, right? So even if I have 100,000 cash sitting in an account, a savings account today, if I just do nothing with it and just let it sit there, in all actuality, that 100 grand is not going to be worth the same next year, right? So, that being said, money needs to continuously keep moving. So yes, although it is important to have credit evaluation and be qualified, whether it's a residential loan or a commercial lender, I absolutely believe that it is not quite as important to have the capital or the credit as it is to understand what you're looking for in an investment property, right? If you find a good deal, if you understand how to walk properties, what to look for, what are signs that this building, may end up costing you a ton of money down the road, right? Or is there deferred maintenance? Are there capital improvements that the building needs? I think someone that's interested in investing in real estate needs to really just start practicing, start to get comfortable walking properties and build your team. Right. That's another thing that I really suggest that people do. If you're interested in investing, you're not going to be able to do this on your own. You need a team around you of trusted professionals, whether, an example of your team members, a good realtor, property manager, a mortgage lender, contractors are extremely hard. Good contractors are extremely hard to come by nowadays. Right. Those are some areas where I feel like you need to have your team. And then once you get your team together, start looking at properties. When you start to get better at finding deals, believe me, you're going to find you're going to find the funding for it, right? Whether it's a private lender or it's a conventional bank. If you find a deal, the money's going to come.
Louis, is it ever too late to invest in real estate?
That's a good question. I'm going to say no. And the reason why I personally believe that it's never too late to start is because I personally have reinvented myself multiple times. Okay. I have made life decisions that put me in a bad spot. I've made bad business decisions over the years, whether it was just a bad partner that I decided to work with, or just not the right decision in a, in a flip or whatever the case is. I've had some tough times and I've reinvented myself, I'm 41 years old right now. And I truly believe that you could be 50, 60 years old. I mean, we know stories, right? Of, individuals in their 60s, that maybe retired early from a job they had forever, and they retire early, and all of a sudden they've got all this free time and they decide to go after a passion of theirs and start a business that they always wanted to start. And they become extremely successful, So I don't think that, regardless of whether you're interested in real estate or not, I truly don't believe that it's ever too late to get into investing. And I also believe that even your first investment property can really make a drastic change in someone's life. I mean, especially for someone who's a full-time worker who's on a budget. Imagine what an extra $400 or $500 in a month in cash flow, positive cash flow, could do for someone who's, on a tight budget. I mean, that really does make a big difference.
So it's never too late and it's never too early.
It's never too early. No, I bought my first house when I was 20 years old. So
Good for you. Louis, what is the difference between building capital and building wealth?
Well, here's the deal. I think it's important to have both, right? So there are some people out there, gurus who talk about real estate all the time, and they say flipping real estate is not investing. That's trading. You might as well just call yourself a day trader. You're not an investor. But I truly feel that this is what's one of the most beautiful things about real estate, is that it's so versatile, right? You can get creative on putting deals together, just like you can decide what road you want to take and with what specific property you may have a different purpose for it, right? So figuring out the highest and best use of real estate is important too. Building capital, one of the fastest ways to build capital is in sales. So whether you can find yourself in a position of sales, or you decide you want to get into flipping real estate because that's your passion and real estate's your love, like it is for me. Flipping real estate is important because that's going to help you build up the capital that you need to start making some long-term investments. You can't make those long-term investments unless you've got a certain amount of capital that you can invest in these properties. So I feel that a good mix of both is important, especially if you're starting with very little capital. But at some point, you're going to want to invest in for the long term. And that's where the real wealth building is. I've never seen anyone get rich who did not build themselves a sustainable, long-term passive income model for themselves. Nobody ever worked full-time at a job and found themselves to become rich, right? So it's about what we do outside of our main hustle, right? And I truly feel that we can literally build wealth by just holding on to long-term investments that are going to bring us monthly income. And here's the beautiful thing about owning real estate, rental real estate. You still retain the asset, right? So you buy the property, you have a mortgage on it, but you're not paying that mortgage back. Your tenants are with the rents. If you're investing right, there should be money left over that's positive income every month. So you're making passive income on a monthly basis. You retain the asset, and your tenants are the ones that are going to pay the debt off for you. And that asset should be appreciating in value over time. That's how the rich get rich.
What's the fastest way to create passive income and financial freedom? Explain the process and the results.
Well,
a little bit deeper.
Sure. As I said, building capital is extremely important, right? So you do need to have a specific amount of capital, but don't be afraid to bring in partners, because sometimes that is the fastest way to do it. I've put deals together before that I, had all my money tied up in a current, renovation project, and I found a deal that I just couldn't walk away from, and I needed to figure out how to make this work. Well, the fastest way to do that is to call someone who I believe would make a good partner, whether they're a partner who's bringing in private capital. They may just be a silent investor who wants to hold a mortgage on the property, or there's someone who actually brings the capital to the table and decides to maybe take that investment endeavor along with you, maybe putting the property in both your names. Regardless, I think the fastest way sometimes is going to be in bringing people to the table that bring something to the table, and kind of teaming up with them,
For
and
rental properties.
I think for rental and for even a flip, I think it's important. Plus, you're going to learn something. Make sure that person's got more experience than you. That's another thing I really like to, talk about, is that you are kind of like the average of like the 5 people you surround yourself around. So it's really important to know that like this person specifically that I want to work with is considered a mentor to me, right? Or this person has been in the real estate world longer than me, or this person's got a lot more capital than I do, right? They're more successful than me, or they've got a lot of knowledge that I can pick up on. Well, when you partner up with these people, you're also, not only are you making money together, but you're also learning. So you're basically getting paid to learn, off of someone who's more experienced than you are. So I think it's important to have that mindset too, for sure.
Luis, if you could give one piece of advice regarding financial education and setting investment goals, what would it be?
Well, reading is extremely important. I've always had this like entrepreneurial spirit about me, and I've always been a rebel, I didn't fit into the, to the normal good student category with great grades. I kind of just made it through high school. I went to college for a couple years, just because I knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur, and I went to get a business administration. That's what I got my degree in, an associate's degree.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, it was I just wanted a little bit of knowledge and background in business. But I went for a specific purpose, just to gain some background knowledge, because I knew I was going to just make money on my own terms, So, financial education, I think, is extremely important. They don't teach you this stuff in school. I think that everyone should read Rich Dad, Poor Dad. That should be the first book that anyone should read if they're interested in going after any kind of endeavor, that's entrepreneurial. If someone wants to start their own business, if someone is interested in investing in real estate, even just to change someone's paradigm, right? Most of us, I think the good students are the ones that end up working in higher roles in companies, right? You've got the CEOs, you've got the VPs, and the executives in these companies. They've always been good students. They've been able to get themselves into good jobs. A lot of these individuals are high paid individuals, high salaried individuals. Those are my favorite people to work with, right? High salaried individuals. Read that book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Start to change your paradigm a little bit, and now all of a sudden you realize, wait, I make pretty good money. I got a lot of savings, and at some point I got to figure out how to retire. Most people don't realize that the 40 plan is what most people are banking on in this country, right? The 40 plan is what I say someone is planning on when they're working 40 hours a week for 40 years of their life, to then retire and expect that they're going to survive off of 40% of their normal income. When they've created this life for themselves, they probably have debt. They probably got monthly payments on different loans that they've taken out, credit cards, whatever the case is. It's not a great plan. It's most people that retire have to end up getting themselves a part-time job. My grandfather retired 5 or 6 years ago. And he had to find himself a part-time job. Right. So, and it's because of the fact that the retirement income is nowhere near what they're used to. And I think it's sad that someone works their whole life and retires, and then they still have to find a part-time job to make ends meet. So working with these higher paid individuals, I think, is important, because they realize that if you read this book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, it really does help people to understand that, I got to have a plan, because I don't want to work forever. I'm not going to be able to work this hard forever either, So I think that's important. Financial education really is to understand how money works, but also to understand how your life is going to sustain itself after your working years are done.
It's great advice. Luis, 5 years ago,
Yep.
you were in a really tough place, both figuratively and literally. You almost threw away your career and your life. Please share your story and how you
Mm,
turned your life
mm.
around.
Well, first of all, Gail, this is the first time I've ever spoken about this publicly. So I just want you to know how much I respect you. This goes to show how much respect I have for you.
Same.
And you know, it's not a super easy topic to talk about, but I've dealt with it, and I've been able to bounce back and rebuild my life. So now it is a lot easier to talk about now, right? But yeah, I'm happy to share. I think I've been in real estate. I think you mentioned in the intro that I've been in real estate now for about 17 years, a little bit over 17 years, and I'm lucky to have a solid career in real estate. But also in this business, I think that you have to check yourself sometimes, because especially when you're in sales and you're in this driven business, you're a driven entrepreneur and you're around other real estate professionals, you can get caught up in, the I would say the networking events and all of the different, the banquets and just different, even down to like broker openings and things of that nature, right? You get all these individuals together. You're having some drinks, right? You're at a banquet. You're at a networking event, and I think that it's, for me personally, I just didn't have that turn off switch, right? I kind of just I didn't have I guess you would call it discipline, right? So I really did not have a lot of discipline in my life. I was making money and I was living a fast life. I enjoyed going out partying. I enjoyed the nightclubs, and the everything that comes with the limelight, right? The bottle service, the attention, the nice things, and the traveling. But my life was like moving 1,000 miles an hour, and
Mhm.
I wasn't paying attention to the important things. Being a better father at the time, right? I was going through my ex-wife and I, we have a daughter together, and my daughter was just 13 at the time, and there was just some difficult things. There were some major changes that were happening in my life, and I realized my daughter's growing up. She lives with her mom full time. I have her every weekend. That's not enough time with a daughter. I didn't have enough influence over her. And at some point that really started to hurt. I was running from the problems, instead of trying to fix our relationship with my daughter. Um, I was running from those problems, right? And how much, like, how good is it for someone to be able to distract themselves? For me, it was a distraction to make money. Making money was a distraction. You know, Going out and meeting friends for drinks or colleagues for drinks, that was a distraction, right? It wasn't a healthy distraction, but that was my distraction. So I would say, you know, matter of fact, I am going to say it was December 4th of 2015. I was out with a mortgage lender, friend of mine, and another realtor, and we were celebrating a hell of a year in 2015. We were celebrating the best year in sales that we all had at the time. And we went out for a nice dinner, and we had a few drinks. And guess what? My mortgage lender buddy went home. My buddy, who's a realtor, he went home, and I went and met other friends at another bar. Right? That was the worst decision I could have made at the time. I decided to get behind the wheel that night at 2 o'clock in the morning, and I was a block away from my house, and I fell asleep at a red light. And not only did I fall asleep at a red light, but after about, the officer said that they had gotten a call, and that like maybe 15 minutes went by, and I still stopped with my foot on the brake at a red light. At some point, my foot went off the brake. I started coasting across the intersection, and I ended up nose to nose with a parked car on the opposite side of the street, 1 block away from my house. So that was extremely embarrassing. Not as a well-known, successful real estate agent in our community, um, and it happened to be my third DUI in a 10-year period. Well, what happens if anybody doesn't know, if you have, and my last DUI was years before that. They're very, very spread out, but they stay on your record for 10 years, right? So this was my third DUI in a 10-year period. My first one being in 2005. My second one, I think, was in 2010, right? They were like 4 or 5 years apart, but this was the third one in 10 years. Well, guess what that meant? That meant that there was no way that I was going to get out of this by not going to jail. Got the best lawyer, got one of the best lawyers in town. We had a good case for the judge, and we pleaded with the judge to not allow my life to be thrown away and to give me immediate work release. The privilege of immediate work release so that I could continue to run my business. And I was approved for the work release program. I will never forget the feeling, Gail, that I had when I went to go, because by the time I went to go see the judge, I was already in jail without being able to get out at all for 97 days. And 97 days of being an inmate around a bunch of individuals who I knew were not in the same walk of life as me. I never have felt that burning feeling inside, like that you just put yourself in a position where you don't belong, and that's literally how I felt. And there was nothing I could do. There was nothing I could do to turn back the clocks or anything. I'm in this now. I'm dealing with the consequences of my decisions. I thought my life was going to be, I thought my life was over, Gail. I literally thought my life was over. I was 36 years old. Actually turned 36 in jail. I was 35. My birthday was Christmas Eve. So I turned 36 as an inmate in the Lancaster County Prison. But I'll tell you what, when I got that work release privilege given to me by the judge, he said something when he told me I could go to work release. He said, Luis, you've already done what you could to throw your life away. I'm giving you a rope to hang yourself with now. So basically that meant I'm giving you one opportunity to go out there and prove everyone wrong. Right. And that's what I did. I literally came back out, was able to salvage my relationships and my business. So many people had grace for me that Gail, I didn't even know if people wanted to work with me anymore, and I didn't even know if I lost respect of my peers, but I got letters. I got, when I got back out, I got phone calls, support from local realtors, brokers, entrepreneurs. I can say that it was extremely humbling. The whole experience was extremely humbling. And humility is something that I think I had a challenge with, right? It was probably one of the personality characteristics that I did not have. But the experience extremely humbled me. I'll tell you what. So yeah, I ended up doing work experience for just under 7 months, and work release program for just under 7 months. And then I was released. They gave me a 1 to 2 year sentence plus 3 years probation. So I still had 1 year on parole when I came out, and I had 3 more years of probation after that. It was not an easy climb back. During the time that I was away, Gail, I had lost a ton of money. I was juggling mortgages, flips, trying to do things. Imagine having, being able to use the phone once every 24 hours. And those phone calls, the time that I had on the phone was more spent on calling people that I needed to do things for me, to handle business for me. I couldn't even spend that time to call and, talk to my loved ones and how are you doing? Because I needed to know, are these deals closing? Is the mortgage getting paid? Is a project done? I'm trying to literally run my business. I'm paying people's salaries from prison. It was a very, very difficult experience. But the love that I received, obviously there's always people I think out there that want to see you fail. And I absolutely had those people in my life. But this exposed them. This experience really exposed the people who were not on Team Lewis, and it allowed me to make those changes, make the changes in my friendships, make the changes in my personal life with who I surround myself with. And at the end of the day, it really gave me a burning desire to come back and prove everybody wrong. I've been working my ass off since the day I came back, and it's literally been, part of it is because I'm pissed off for greatness. It's like you kind of, that you messed up and that you're better than that. And for me, that just gave me this like deep burning desire to just come back and just crush it. And every day I still wake up because it's a traumatic experience, so sometimes I wake up in the morning and I have this feeling like I'm going to lose everything. And it makes me really want to go off and just be more successful. I don't want to slow down, but I also realized another thing is that when I went away, some of the things I teach now about building wealth, about passive income, I realized that I wasn't doing that back then. So that's why I'm so passionate about it, is because when I went away, I had savings, I had projects going on. And because I was in sales and I was a darn good salesman, I always had money coming in. But this is what I ask people all the time when we talk about passive income and wealth, is if you were to remove yourself today completely from the equation, what would happen to your income? What would happen to your lifestyle? If you stopped working today, God forbid something happens to you and you end up, incapacitated, if you end up in a wheelchair, or worse, you lose your job and, you're not qualified to get any other job that pays near what you were used to getting paid. Whatever the case is, if you remove yourself from the equation today, how much monthly income are you going to have? And that's the problem that I ran into. I was so used to making money, and I knew that I was just, if I needed more, I could just go make it. But I only had a couple rental properties, and I didn't have enough sustainable income to be able to pay my bills if I was removed from the equation. And I was removed from the equation.
I really hope your story helps someone, inspires someone. And, your passion for real estate is extremely obvious, and your passion for life. I know what sets you apart from other realtors. What do you think sets you apart?
It's a good question. There's a ton of, especially in Lancaster County, I have tremendous respect for our realtors. First of all, I have my brokerage, or SlateHouse Realty, the brokerage, we have offices all over the state. We even have an office in Trenton, New Jersey, Baltimore, and even close to Virginia Beach. Right. I've experienced doing real estate deals, transactions in a lot of different areas. And one thing I can say about the Lancaster County Association of Realtors is that they are some of the classiest, most professional, trusted realtors that I've ever met in any other. I mean, I'm blown away by how some people were able to even get a real estate license in some areas. So I'm extremely proud to say that about Lancaster County realtors. But we've got over 1,100 realtors in our county. So every time someone decides to work with me above, 1,100 other realtors, I take that as an honor. And I take it very seriously. The one thing I can say that sets me apart from all the other real estate professionals, number one, is that I've probably failed more times than most people have ever tried in their lifetime. Okay. I've made a ton of mistakes. I think that you got to look for wisdom when you're looking for someone as a mentor, or to work with someone professionally. You got to look for someone who's taken the bumps and the bruises and has learned from that, because now they don't have to make the same mistakes. I bring wisdom to the table. Another thing is that, I think 95% of full-time realtors know nothing about real estate investment. So that's another thing that really sets me apart, is my expertise in the real estate investment field. And I think, that brings a different paradigm to the whole realtor thing, whether I'm working with an investor, because I work with residential home buyers and sellers all the time too. But here's the thing. I take that same mindset and that same experience that I have from the real estate investment world and from the contracting world, and I bring it into the residential experience. When I walk properties, Gail, I point out to my clients all of the deferred maintenance and what it would cost to fix. I point out to my clients more than likely what's going to pop up in the inspection report so that we can set those expectations up front, and we can also ask the seller to address some of these things, right? And in this market, when you're in a seller's market, the first thing that buyers are doing when there's multiple offers and you find out there's 15, 16 competing offers and people are offering $40,000, $50,000 over asking price, it's insane, right? It's like the wild, wild west. But the very first thing that most buyers do, they waive inspections.
Yeah.
They want to make it a simple, easy transaction, or a simple, a way for the seller to accept their deal, right? They want to make that deal. They want to sweeten the deal by saying, look, we're going to remove the inspection contingency. We're not going to do a home inspection. And guess what? We're not even going to ask for the appraisal inspection. If it doesn't appraise, we'll make up the difference, right? That's literally how crazy the market is right now, Gail. So especially now, more than ever, if we know that buyers are going to need to be competitive, and more than likely they may have to waive inspections to be more aggressive, I think it's important to have somebody like myself beside them who has the experience, who knows what flipping real estate is all about, who knows what repairs are, what the difference between a capital improvements and deferred maintenance. That expertise, I think, really is what sets me apart from most other realtors. And not only that, but they're making the biggest investment that they'll probably have, that most people ever make. They're buying their home. They also want to know that in 5-10 years, if they're looking to sell, that they're going to be in a good position, right?
Right. A trusted advisor.
Absolutely.
Luis, I'd like to give you an opportunity for a shout out. Please share with our listeners what your favorite nonprofit organization is and why.
I'll tell you what, Tabor and LHOP, they recently merged, right? And LHOP, Lancaster Housing Opportunity Partnership. They recently merged and created a new nonprofit organization called Tenfold.
Tenfold.
And they're working together to really, I think it's really intelligent that they saw that they were very like-minded and they had some of the same vision and goals. And I love the fact that they've merged together. And this is an organization that is also the parent organization for SOE, Lancaster SOE. SOE stands for the Southwest, and it's the Neighborhood Leadership Board that I serve on. I'm also the chair of the Housing Committee for the board, which is really exciting because I get to work with a lot of passionate individuals from all different walks of life, and we're really aimed at improving the quality of life, right, for individuals, in the neighborhood, and we're aimed at also improving the housing stock, and also increasing home ownership, and helping people achieve that lifelong dream of owning their own home. Most people don't realize how tangible that is. Right. Some people think they're just going to rent forever. They don't realize how tangible it really is and how possible home ownership really is. And that's what I love about what Tenfold's doing.
Thank you. Thank you. Luis, thank you very much for being with us today. I am sure our listeners have more questions for you. You can reach Luis at SlateHouseRealty.com. I'd like to leave you with this. Grapes must be crushed to make wine. Diamonds form under pressure. Olives are pressed to release oil. Seeds grow in darkness. Whenever you feel crushed, under pressure, pressed, or in darkness, you are in a powerful place of transformation. Trust the process. Please join us next time as we aim to inspire, empower, and inform. Life in the Next Act is a proud member of the Candy Factory Collective. You can find the show streaming on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, and LinkedIn. And you could subscribe to the audio version anywhere you get your podcasts.
Gail has experienced many acts over the years. Living a full life, she is a mother of 2 and grandmother of 3, and currently calls Lancaster, PA home. An entrepreneur at heart, she's owned several businesses, hosted a popular radio show, and has written for prominent publications highlighting nonprofits. While she holds her real estate license in Florida and PA, she believes her true calling is giving others a voice.
Learn more about Gail at gailshane.com. Life in the Next Act is produced by the Candy Factory Collective at the Candy Factory Co-working Campus in Lancaster, PA. Production support by Jason Mundock and Anna Tran. Administrative support by Ann Kirby, Ariana Henderson, and Krisha Martzell. Notes and links can be found on the show post at our website, candyfactorycollective.com. Candy Factory.
Collective.